Hi, Anand.
Hey Lloyd, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Good. Okay, so let me just introduce you to our viewers. Anand Patel, of course, is formerly from UMBC. These guys made the semis in 2010, played on played on the first live stream of cricket in the US back there at our national championship in 2010. They didn't make the playoffs the next 2 years, but then came back with a bang and then was club president. And in 2013, under Captain Rikin Patel, they won the national championship. Now, Anand, of course, and any of our club presidents know the kind of work that goes into getting a team to nationals. So that's something he was in charge of. And from that, you went on to start your own business, which you can tell us briefly about it after I introduced you. And then recently, last 2 years, you've been president of the Washington Cricket League, which is has been one of the largest leagues in the country for a long time, and gets many international players as well as other top players playing. Now, most recently, and even though we don't know when the elections are going to be for USA Cricket Directorship, you've announced your candidacy to be a USA Cricket Director individual. And knowing your background, I'm not surprised. So tell us, first of all, you can go through a little bit of your journey from playing for UMBC in American college cricket right up to present day. And, give our viewers a sense of what your background is in terms of how it can suit you for the position of USA Cricket Director.
Yeah. So again, first and foremost, thank you for having me. It's really nice to see you, even though it's virtual. It's really nice to see you after such a long time. So like you said, it all started back with college cricket. Back then it was UMBC college team, and from there we went on even at that time we used to be a part of the Washington Cricket League here locally. But then these were just different steps which allowed me to grow not just as a player, but more importantly, also be part of the administration. Be it the president of the club, or then I still play an administrative role, not just in the league, but also in the team. So it's just.
Sorry. Could you turn down the volume on your phone so that way we don't get the echo?
Sure. Is this better now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, as I was saying, it all started back in UMBC days when we were a college team, and then from there to grow into a successful league team, which we currently are still doing, be it under a different name since we now have all graduated from college. But then again, not just growing as a team or as a player, but growing as a cricket administrator, starting with the club presidency, then now taking over the league presidency. And then, like you said, I recently also announced my candidacy for the USA Cricket directors and individual directors position.
Well, of course, being a league president, just like when you were the club president, has its challenges. And of course, you get your satisfaction. Now, give us an idea, something, that can basically tell our listeners of how you handle some of the major challenges you get, because of course as a director you'll be asked to look at different situations.
The thing is, whether it's club cricket, whether it's league cricket, whether it's the national governing body, the main thing is, one, there is no secret formula for success. In other words, you can plan things, but obviously there will be obstacles along the way, some which you might not even expect. So there are key factors. There are definitely things that one needs to, you need to be flexible. you need to have and I mean it literally, you need to have long ears, because you need to listen to all the different stakeholders. Like for example, if you are a club president, and whether it's college cricket, whether it's a local league club, yes, there might be different players coming from different backgrounds, having different expectations. So you not just need to deal with like internal players, but then on a club level, you might be dealing with like college administration when it comes to fields or field permits, those type of things. So it's the same thing whether you're doing it at a club level, at a league level, and that is my message even for like the national cricket. Like obviously, cricket in US now is growing exponentially. And the fact that we have commercial partners getting involved is definitely a blessing, to be honest. But at the end of the day, I strongly believe that the local players, the local clubs, the local leagues, they form the backbone of cricket here in this country. So we need to make sure it's not just one type of entity that gets to. I mean that's always heard. We want to make sure that everyone has their say. Like if we, for example, USA Cricket, one of the good things that we happened recently was they recently crossed a 20,000 membership mark. But if you ask me honestly, it's a mere fraction of the number of cricketers that we have in the country. So again, yes, it's important for us to grow, but then also make sure it's not just like one hub in the eastern part or western part of the country, whether it's, even if it's a small town somewhere in the US, we want to make sure everyone is heard equally.
Yep, and like you rightly said, being able to listen to different viewpoints, people of different interests and background, and you certainly have that background yourself, coming up with from your college team to being in the Washington Cricket League, which is such a large league. Now, yourself, you said you're still playing, right?
I mean, I try to play whenever possible, but again, since I have been involved in at least on the league level, I have been involved in the administration for almost about 8 years. So to be honest, it's very difficult for me to play as well as be involved in leadership activities, because like as I said, every weekend something or the other would come up unexpected. So I also need to make sure I'm available when needed, because for us, and I'm sure it's the same thing with you, like our weekends are more busier than our weekdays when it comes to the cricketing side of things. So that's why if I'm, let's say, playing, even if it's a T20 game, it takes 3 hours of my availability out in case someone needs to reach out to me at that time.
Yeah. Now, as far as infrastructure goes, of course, very important. What do you think about your infrastructure in your area, and what have you been doing to make it better? Because we can always be better, even if we're happy with where we're at.
Yeah, and like you said, like yeah, and you're right. I mean, there's never like 100% success. We can always do better, regardless of how many fields we have, what type of outfields we have. But again, this is something where we all collectively need to work together, whether it's one state, whether it's one zone, whether it's one country. Because I mean, at the end of the day, we also need, and that's as I said, like we also need commercial partners to come in and help build that infrastructure. Because at the end of the day, when you look at, let's say, at a league level, these are all non-profit leagues. So even if they are working on like due structure and collecting dues from clubs, and same thing at a club level, if you're collecting dues from players, it's basically a zero balance at the end of the year. So in other words, we collectively need to come up with sponsors or commercial partners to make sure it's not just about the type of cricket that we are playing, but also help us build that infrastructure, be it fields, be it proper pathways for cricketers to go from one level to the next level.
One of the things that I found with the UMBC team when I dealt with the guys back, 2010 to 2013, I love the camaraderie amongst the team, and I found that they were a fun bunch of guys. And it leads me to this question. If like let's say in England or places like that, you have a club that's based on an actual facility, a cricket field. It's easier to develop that spirit where everybody feels a part of a club. How do you feel that is dealt with in your situation, Washington Cricket League, where the clubs don't have the luxury of having their own fields, specifically clubhouse, this kind of thing, where the players can gather for a little bit of social get together and this kind of thing. But building that team and club spirit, what do you think? Where do you think we're at, and how do you think we can make that better?
Yes, so see, I mean, from my own experience with whether it was UMBC Cricket Club previously or now 22 Yards Cricket Club, and I mean to an extent even for a lot of other clubs, at least in the Washington Cricket League area, I can say that club structure still exists. What I mean by that is it's not just showing up on a Saturday or a Sunday for a game. You will still see a lot of clubs like meeting even during weekday evenings for practices or for some social gatherings every now and then whenever the schedule permits. But you're right, like the fact that, let's say, a club does not have its own field or own ground, it not just makes it difficult, it also, like at least on a league level, these clubs are even required or need to help prepare the field. So it's kind of like an extra burden on them also. And that's why kind of I go back to the importance of having like a proper structure of commercial partners, because then it takes some of this burden off these players who can still be a club and actively participate and help in whatever capacity they can. But we are still taking some burden off these players in such that they don't have to prepare the fields or they don't have to lay the mat down and those type of things.
Now, I mentioned that Washington Cricket League has been for a long time one of the largest leagues in the country. If you have the number off the top of your head, just so our viewers might not know, but if you can tell them about how many teams actually participate in the Washington Cricket League.
Yes, I mean, fortunately, the league has been growing every year. Right now, we have for this year, even with COVID, and some of the teams willing to opt out for this year for safety reasons, we still have 42 teams that are playing this year, which is approximately about 1,500 members currently.
And before COVID?
Before COVID, I mean, at one point we had almost about 46, 48 teams with almost about, I would say, close to 2,000 members, active members.
And of course, you guys do 40 over season, right?
Yes, so our season typically starts mid to late April. We typically start with the T20 season, which runs pretty much right up till Memorial Day weekend. And then our 40 over season starts from like the first week of June and it goes right into like September, October timeframe. So we have a short T20 season, but we have a long 40 over season.
Now, I've deliberately not asked you specific, like what do you plan to do were you to be elected as a USA Cricket Director? Because to me, what is necessary is not necessarily to say what you would do, but to be the kind of person and have the kind of background that can lend itself to helping get the ship to where it needs to go. And so that's why I'm more asking you about, what you've done and where you guys are at. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, and that's why, as I said earlier, you cannot plan things out like this is what I want to do. And yes, obviously it's always important or it's better to have goals. But like, as I said, there'll always be obstacles, planned or unplanned, that you always have to overcome. But and more importantly, it's like you said, it's important to work collectively as a group. So irrespective of where you come from, whether it's a small club somewhere or whether it's a big city or a cricket hub, at the end of the day, it's a collective job that we all have to do.
Now, just slightly off that topic, but something that's of great interest right now, I don't know how much attention you were able to pay to the World Test Championship. Of course, New Zealand just won. Any opinions on that?
Um, I mean, as an Indian team supporter, obviously I was disappointed, but I was happy to see, like, given how rain had affected the first couple, or at least the first 3 days, I was happy to see that ultimately we were able to get a result. Because for it to be like a pinnacle of test, it would be sad to not see like an end in like a draw, especially with rain. And I mean, New Zealand is one team which, regardless of whom you support, New Zealand is one team that you will always support because it's a bunch of good people. And given how unlucky they were in that 2019 World Cup final, it's actually fitting that it's again in England that they ended up lifting that title. So.
Yep, and I'm sure a lot of people feel that way, much as many of our viewers might have loved to see India win this. New Zealand is a worthy winner, and people love the spirit that they usually play in as well. Now, before we wrap this up, is there anything that you'd like to say specifically in terms of this USA Cricket Director position to our viewers?
No, see, to be honest, because like you said, I wasn't looking at this as like something to be like a campaigning kind of a thing. For me, it was more to just have a chat with you about how things are, not just with terms of like league level cricket where I am currently involved with, but also at like a college level cricket, because I know COVID has affected all of us. So hopefully, if not sooner, then hopefully maybe in this fall or next spring, we'll also have like the regionals or the nationals for the American college cricket. And I'm sure you're working diligently on some of these activities. But no, as far as USA cricket is concerned, as I said, at the end of the day, to be very honest, it's not about who wins or who does not win. It's about making sure whoever gets selected does what they are supposed to be doing. And again, not just think like inside a box that this is my zone or this is my region, but look at the broader picture. Even if like for example, if I get elected, it's not that I only need to worry about my Washington DC area. For me, someone in Chattanooga, Tennessee, for example, should be equally important. Yeah.
Yep. Well, let me also mention, for those who don't know, you're a qualified umpire, right?
Yeah.
And you've been a professor. I don't know if you still hold that position at a college.
No, so yeah, I mean, I used to teach, I taught for a good, I would say 7-8 years. And now, one of the things that you mentioned earlier, I do own a couple of businesses which are on the education side of things. So one of them is the Learning Center. So because of that conflict of interest, I had to give up on my teaching role, since I now took over something which is like for-profit compared to non-profit.
Well, certainly this shows your impressive background in terms of administration and general management. These are things that one needs to be good at to do the kind of job that we're looking at here successfully. On a personal level, it's awesome to have a chat again with you. You were one of the people I enjoy dealing with. I enjoy dealing with a lot of our players and former players. And so thanks again for doing this, Anand.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It was absolutely my pleasure.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
Bye.